Samaritans of that city believed him because of the word of the woman who testified, who told me all that I ever did. So when the Samaritans had come to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed there 2 days, and many more believed because of his own word. Then they said to the woman, now we believe, not because of what you said, for we ourselves have heard him, and we know that this is indeed the Christ, the Savior of the world. Praise God. Well, I want you guys to know, one of the first memories that I have is of entering into foster care when I was 4 years old. And upon that time, I began to be sexually abused multiple times, many times over, in a short 4-year period of time by many different perpetrators or people that were draped in the spirit of love. When I was 8, we returned to live with my mom, who had life-controlling issues. And she did the very best that she could. She loved us. The very best that she could. At 9 years old, I was violently assaulted sexually. When I was 11, I began to solicit myself for school supplies or food, whatever could feed me, my sister, and my brother. We lived in extreme poverty. When I was 13, I took the public transit to Riverside Hospital in Newport News, where I was treated for sexually transmitted disease. And upon my return home, where we lived, in a condemned building that we were squatting in at that time, and we were stealing electricity from the people who moved around us with an extension cord. My mom was drunk, passed out on the couch, and she was vomiting, laying on her back. She was drowning at that time in her own vomit. And that was the norm for our lives. I went to her, turned her on her side, took the little coffee cup on the table that was near her, dumped whatever beverage was in it on the floor, and caught the rest of what I could in the cup. Propped her up on her side, put the cup on the table, and kept on going. Because that was normal. That was the normal life for us. When I was 15, I got married to a man that was 13 years older than me, and I had only known him for 6 months. I moved all the way across the United States by myself with this gentleman. When I was 19 years old, I had 2 children, and I was experiencing a terrible divorce. I was very hurt and wounded. I was angry at men. I couldn't trust men. And I seemed to pick all the men in my life that would continue that pattern of behavior. I didn't know how to be any different. Although I desperately wanted to be. I wanted to be different, but I didn't know how. And I had no power within myself to be different than the way that I knew growing up as a child. When I was 19 years old, I tried to take my own life out of deep and profound desperation. And for years, I told people I will never live past 25. I will never live past 25. Only the good die young. And the song that I lived my life by was called Bad Company, by a band called Bad Company. And that was a prophetic word I continued to speak of in my life for years. When I was 20, by the time I was 20, I had 2 abortions, and I had given up a child for adoption. I was racked with pain. I wanted to be different. I wanted to change, but I was powerless in and of myself to be different. I kept trying. I would go to rehab. I would go to, AA. I tried going to church. I tried all this stuff, and nothing was changing my life. I wanted to be like other people who seemed to have it all together, but I just couldn't make it happen. I couldn't. I just kept defaulting back. I couldn't hold down a job. Every time I would go get a job, I was alone, and I couldn't even keep a job. I would get a job, I'd do good for a little while. I would be zealous, excited. Yes, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah. But then, when it was time to have character, when it was time to walk that thing out, when it was time to keep that thing for longer than your enjoyment of it went, I would get fired. I would fall away. I wouldn't show up. I would just say, go find something new. Something different. Something better. Something that suits me. When I was 21, I walked through the doors of an adult entertainment establishment, and I became employed there. And it provoked in me a bitter hatred towards men, deeper than the one that already existed in me. And it provoked horrible anguish because I thought, here we are again. Can I ever get away from this? This seemed to be the only job that I could keep, too. It seemed like the only job that I could hold on to was where I solicited myself. Oh, I didn't leave this time with somebody. I didn't go somewhere with somebody. And it was hurting. I was hurting. I was full of pain, and I never looked deeper than the surface. It was all happy-go-lucky. That everything under the bottom was just this turmoil, this like volcano that was bubbling up, and it was destroying my life. And I was prophesying that thing to myself. Well, I'll never live past 25. I'll never live past 25. God's going to take only the good die young, baby. That's what I've been telling everybody. And then I became involved with the owner of the establishment that I worked for. And he owns many establishments. And he was intricately linked to the Hells Angels, an outlaw motorcycle group. And as I began to know him and to know his life, I began to realize that this guy's conditioning women for prostitution. And this outlaw motorcycle group, they're controlling them, hurting them like cattle. And I was like, whoa, this is what it looks like to be a woman. That's what I thought. That's what I thought life was. It was just to be sexually exploited, to be abused. I thought that was my value. And I said, I will never do it again. I will never ever solicit myself again. You can kill me, but I am not going down that road. And I was afraid of him, don't get me wrong. But I was more afraid of the feeling that would come upon me, that death, dying, hurting, not fit to live, but too afraid to die feeling. I said, no way, that's not going to happen to me. So I began to do the best thing that I could. And they saw in me things I didn't see in myself. Well, you could help us shepherd these girls. They start saying, no way, this is wrong. Something's not right here. And the light bulb starts coming on. Here comes Elizabeth, the inner line. Hey, girl, what's going on, girl? And then they start sharing that stuff with you. Oh, that's crazy. You know that's crazy. That's the stuff that happens in movies. That's not real. And I watched their lives be broken down. I watched people tell them, and me, you'll never be nothing, you'll be nothing without me. You're mentally ill, you have sickness, you need me. You need me. You can't do anything without me. You've got to have me, or you'll just do nothing like you were before I found you. And I was hurting. I started realizing what I was doing to them and all the pain that I felt in me. They were going to feel it. They were going to know it. They were going to experience it. I was showing them that very thing that was destroying me was coming upon them, and I was helping them. And my conscience finally kicked in and started bothering me and started saying, girl, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, I started telling girls, this is what they're doing to you. That's what they're doing to you. Open your eyes. Pay attention. Pay attention. This is how the process works. Look, And some would leave, and some wouldn't. They would go back and say, she told me to? She told me to? And they started warning me. They started telling me, hey, you better knock it off. They started telling me, we do worse things than temper girl. You better pay attention. So I left. I ran. I said, I'm getting out of here, baby. Woo! And there was a church that was across the street, very close to where he lived. It was called Phoenix First Assembly of God. And I went there. And I tried to convey to that pastor there what was in fact happening. Trying to express to him what was going on in my life. And I needed help. I needed a place to stay. Couldn't stay there. And he said, well, we don't have anything like that here. This is not good. We're not that kind of church. We don't do that. But we do cooperate with the inner city ministry. Let me see about that thing. And you had to go out and get some research. He came back about maybe 10 or 15 minutes later and gave me a little flyer. He said, here, you need to go here. This is the place you need to go. I said, can I get around? There's a long walk across, the valley. He was like, no, but if you call them, maybe somebody there can come and get you. So, I was discouraged because I was ready to be extricated right then. So I waited a little while and went back to the house and get some more drugs. And a few weeks went by. This is not a bad life. This is good. This is a good life. It's not bad. None of this. I can enjoy it. And I was hurting. I just can't express to you in words the deep and profound pain was consuming me, even like cancer. And I would take any substance. Now drink, any drink, to make it be quiet. And one day I went to this park in that neighborhood. I walked with my dog to this park, and I was laying down on this park bench. And I just started crying. It was a terrible, deep cry. I've never cried like that before to my knowledge. It hurt so bad. And I just cried out at that moment, God, have mercy on me! Have mercy on me, God, please! Help me! Help me, God! Help me! Can't do this! I went back, and this man that worked for the man that I was with that owned his adult entertainment businesses said, give me a ride. Get me out of here. Take me out of here. Take me out of here right now. And he took me to church on the street. I was a neighbor in the ministry. I had a shelter and could stay there for 10 days. I didn't want Jesus. I tried that. I went to church a lot of times. Anytime we lived in the church, I went. The only thing I got out of those years of trying